We are live. This is your brother Surrealism, a prism of realism, with a very special guest, my brother Voilame, Voilame, Cosmic V. How you doing?
I'm doing well today. I appreciate you having me on, man. How are you today, Surreal?
My brother, all is in alignment, all is balanced, and that is the master key for me.
That's the key, being balanced, 100%, honestly.
All day, every day. Can you give me a brief introduction into your name, its meaning, and why did you choose that?
So voila me, the voila part of my name comes from French. I have French inside of me. So voila means here or there it is. So when you say voila me, it's saying here I am or there I am. I chose the name as a spell for myself in
Mm-hmm.
order to remind myself that I always have to be myself. I don't have to change for anybody. I could just be my natural state at all times.
I like that. I like that. You know, there's
Hmm.
as I reference it as an expression um, under the ancient Maya, or some say Mayan cosmology. It's a greeting, and the
Hmm.
greeting is pronounced as In Lakesh Alakin, or In Lakesh Alakin. I am you, you are another me.
This is facts. We are reflections of each other.
Come on now, my brother. Can you go deeper with the reflections of each
Hmm.
other? Go ahead.
So when people say, "I am you, you are me," and a reflection, you shoot off a toroidal field. Your toroidal field is basically an aura. So the energy you have inside of you is what you project outwardly, and that's what the universe gives you. And that includes the form of jobs, that it includes the form of your environment, that includes the form of people. So when you are a certain way in yourself, it is reflected outwardly towards another being. When they say the five closest people are a reflection of who you are as a person, that's true because these toroidal fields are electromagnetic fields. And these fields of energy is the type of energy you are and you attract to you. That's where that comes from. And it's inner everything is inside. The inner version of you is reflected out into the universe. Even when you talk about yourself, your subconscious and your consciousness is a microphone. Whatever you say, the universe perceives it as the correct answer. So if you're always saying, "Ah, man, I'm terrible, I don't like myself," you'll get that kind of energy from people too, because you're inwardly projecting that outward in your electro field.
Can I ask you this, my brother?
Hmm.
Duality, as
Hmm.
I come to understand, it is very primal and it's fundamental in our particular third dimension. And I realized through Western society, in the way that things have been butchered and chopped and separated, we often sometimes only speak on maybe one layer or level to the expression or the connection. And as I've come to understand now, duality is so key. So when you mention, when we speak and say things with a certain, if you don't mind me adding on, a certain level of intensity, a certain level of overall intent, let alone the specific, let's just say if it's coming from your root, if it's coming from your solar, is it coming from your throat, is it coming from your crown, in regards to the energy that we're expressing, I come to realize that things are so layered and interconnected. And there's so many multiple possibilities. Any thoughts on that?
So, yes, there's infinite realities of you. If you've ever made a decision in your life, the universe actually splits into those decisions. So, think of it like the roots of a tree, right? Every decision you've ever made and ever will make is already created. All of these roots, no matter which choice you pick, are attached to the same tree. This tree is your life. your soul journey. No matter which decision you choose, it's already there. Each micro decision you make changes that future possible outcome. So when people predict the future, they're only predicting a possible outcome in one reality, because that one micro decision will affect the macro and change completely. It's super deep, honestly. It seems like a simple concept. I'll give you an example. If you
Yes.
take the days of the week, Sunday through Saturday, take them off the calendar. Take
Mm.
January and December, all the months off the calendar. How do you measure time? Your micro decisions per day will show you where you're going in the future. Those little bitty increments that you choose to do affect the reality you're in. That's how important every decision is in your life. The more you take control of those micro decisions in your life, the more you control the outcome of where you're moving to.
And I agree with that. You mentioned the micro
Mhm,
versus or in duality with the macro.
mhm.
Could you break that down a little more in regards to the decisions we make, the cosmic, as I like to reference, the tree of life in conjunction with that, and all these infinite possibilities and options?
Okay, so when let's start off with duality. When you hear the words duality, most people will say, "I'm loving light, I'm loving light." That's cool. But you got to understand there's chaos or dark energy too. What we came here to do is learn how to balance our energy to a positive polarity and a negative polarity. If you're always on one side of the polarity, you're unbalanced. This is so important because you'll hear a lot of people say love and light, love and light. We are light beings. We are light love beings. But you have to understand darkness, because the highest form of light is darkness. You cannot perceive the light at that spectrum, because, as I tell people, you need chaos energy or dark energy in order to understand what light is. If you
Mm.
never had darkness or dark chaos energy in your life, then you will be unbalanced in something, either your chakras, your life, job, situations, relationships. And let me give you an example. A lot of us are born in chaos energy. We grow up in chaos households. And when you get older, since you grew up in chaos, when you get peace, it feels foreign to you, because you never had a time to understand duality, number one. And same thing with relationships. This is why, like, these women go for these types of guys and these men go for these type of women, is because they bring that chaos energy that they feel will make them feel normal. That's why
Mm.
we chase this type of energy. So, learning how to transmute your personal energy in order to understand that it's a balanced scale will help you grow as a person beyond um, normal means. Honestly, it's one of the most important lessons that I had to learn. Duality is key in order to progress in your life fully, and to learn how to manage your own internal energy. So most people, for instance, most people think heaven and hell is up and down, right? Heaven and hell is left and right. So think of positive polarity and negative polarity, like a double A battery. You need both charges in order for a complete charge to happen. This is how I explain it to people.
And you're correct, and I appreciate that. And as you know, it gets even deeper in regards to all the ways that we, or the ways of the feelings that we project, those energies and those thoughts and
Hmm.
those, that entanglement or that separation.
Hmm.
And as you know, the more, as I like to say in my inner and overstanding, the more one becomes sensitive in understanding energy, not just from the mental, but also the internal biological. It gets very deep when you have these interfaces in relationships, or where you choose to work or not work, or how you want to work, or where you choose to live or not live, or what you choose to hear from the universe, or what whispers in your ear, if it's a spirit guide or your higher self. I realize you have to be very keen and precise, because that can be the difference between, maybe your time is up, or maybe you have an extension to that life, or, as some say, death contract. Any thoughts on that?
So, before you come to the planet, you sign a death contract, you sign a soul contract. I will complete this energy flux in my soul in order to raise myself, and I want to die at this time by this means. But you can also renegotiate these contracts sometimes. It just
Mm,
depends on how much energy and how much you fulfilled the agreements within the contract. So we were talking about the micro and the macro, right? The micro is the miniature decisions, the miniature energies that you decide to take care of. The macro is what the result of these in a giant scale. That's where that comes from as well. Because, as I said, these many decisions you make not only affect your energy, it affects your contract, it
mm.
affects your existence, it affects how you interact with people. It's so important to understand and understand that all of this is inside. It's always inside out, not outside in.
And that is very key, my brother. If you don't mind me adding on to that real quick, that, as I like to say, that balance of duality, or that tightrope of duality, or that, how can I say it? It's another word that just came into my mind, but I guess to make it short for common reference, that thin line. That's what I was looking for. That thin line between duality and the decisions and your feelings and your emotions, as you stated, on a micro level, can be very either freeing or self inflicting harm in regards to where you were, how you were, and how much energy you projected in that moment when you made that decision. Whether some say I was half conscious, partially conscious, quasi conscious, nonetheless, you made a decision.
Mm-hmm.
And that decision has to be honored and lived for however long you choose to live the experience with the situation or the circumstances, people, places, and ideas that you've now connected with. And in adding to, in bringing my quick thought to a quick close on what you shared, that's a critical piece down here in third density, because, like
Mm-hmm.
you say, you mentioned being able to amend that soul or death contract. Now, that one right there, in my humble opinion, is another. I mean, that's a major branch on the tree of life, as I call it. Being able to amend, that means you can escape what was initially agreed upon as your expiration date, or your dead on a DOA date, dead on arrival date. You can actually escape that, as I like to, play with words, and extend your life, almost like an extra credit, little gold coin, or Pac-Man nugget you've now ingested, and now you've supersized yourself because your energy and frequency has doubled in mass and in frequency and vibration. Anything you want to add to that?
Yes, it's basically everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. Electromagneticity is what it's called. When you solve, let's say you solve a generational trauma, right? When you solve a generational trauma, you clear up an energy blockage in your energy your circuitry. So all of your emotions are tied to different chakra points. The chakra points are related to things that are currently happening in your life. For example, your root chakra is usually for security and foundation. And a lot of people's root chakra are off because of, financial troubles or mismanagement of money or mismanagement of energies. When you solve the root, for some people, it'll balance your other chakras and leave more room for electrical current to come through, because all of your emotions, the word emotion means energy in motion. So if you feel an angry, sad, anxiety, depression, which they promote in a lot of stuff we see on media, it causes stagnancy of electricity in your body. This is why they tell you whenever you're angry, sad, or mad or something like that, you go take a walk. Because when you take a walk, you help to clear that blockage by walking on the earth, especially if you're barefoot. When you go to the park and you get barefoot and you start walking, the earth will transmute this energy, these negative ions that are statically stuck in your cells. It'll go into the earth, recycle, and come back as positively charged ions in order to get you more stabilized. That's why it's so important to manage your emotions, because each emotion produces not only a frequency, it produces an electrical current.
Yes. Yes. And my brother, as I can hear, you've definitely have put in the work, the time and the study to embody this knowledge and wisdom.
Mhm.
I know in Western terms we go with information and then knowledge and wisdom, and I know that's relative based on how you choose to decipher it or connect with it internally. But as you stated in regards to the chakras, those spinning wheels, that spinning vortex is critical. That spiritual vortex of energy. I mean, this is ancient in what we're talking about. I mean, I know Western gives carbon dating, as I like to say, that's just a reference based on the Western definition of carbon dating. This thing is really as old as time or as timeless as space time. Any thoughts on
Mhm.
that?
Yes, so some of this knowledge actually comes from the old Kemetic and esoteric schools, and before then too. The reason why you be stay in your natural state is because dis-ease, when you hear the word, it's etymology. Dis-ease is getting out of your natural state. So whenever you have some emotions like anxiety, pain, sadness, that's dis-ease towards your body. And if it remains stagnant for too long, that's what helps to develop illness in the body. So learning how to maintain a calm state, to understand and be aware of the emotion and what's happening, will allow you to produce more from yourself. That's why it's so important that this is what causes a lot of our illnesses in the beginning. It's not just health. The health is our electricity being static in their cells.
My brother, you're going in, and this is a deep dive
Hmm.
and into the sun, and you're correct. Um, Energy blockage, that
Hmm.
dis-ease is critical with everything being electromagnetic, or as I like to use the flip, magnetic electric. It is intense, and we
Hmm.
don't realize how everything we encounter, everything we see, we hear, we taste, we touch, we smell, and the sixth sense, or anything in the ether, the astral, it gets cosmic, universal. It gets very deep in how we chemically translate that in our third dimensional expression.
Hmm.
And that is another, man, when I started to really get just some of the layers and maybe touching some levels with it. Because, sometimes you can kind of jump from level 1 to 10. Some say accidentally, some say there is no accidents. Some
Hmm.
said you jump there to remind yourself, hey, you can move farther than level 1. You need to go to level 10 or level 11 or level 13. But in that quick reference, that is very critical because the energy that we're experiencing here in third D, if you don't replenish yourself, recharge, recover, rejuvenate, relax, rest. I'm gonna add this before you jump in real quick. I've over the years I've experimented with my what we call realm sleep, rapid eye movement, or sleep in general, and I will say there are many layers and levels to even sleep. And it's deeper spiritually than just a mental concept, or just something physically you encounter every night. I mean, your body has as they reference using Western terms, a circadian rhythm in
Mm-hmm.
regards to how you balance your nightlight and daylight, but also how the body breaks those light particles down and produces either melatonin for night or serotonin for the day, as is commonly referenced.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that there's a chemical, we're doing chemistry, not just externally, but internally. And that duality in itself is major when I really started saying, wait a minute, you mean to tell me I can sleep deeper? I started realizing, brother, I wasn't even sleeping. I was in a light state of a hibernated state of lucid dreaming slash I'm half awake. I like to kind of flip it and remix it. And when I realized that I need to go deeper with healing, oh man. Any thoughts?
Rest.
Anything you want to add on that?
Yes. So one of the biggest hurdles for our civilization is sleep deprivation. That's one
Oh,
of the that's one of the biggest hurdles for our civilization. Some people say, I'm up all night. I don't need to sleep. And those people are shortening their lifespans because when you sleep, not only does it recover your body, think of like a video game. When you go and rest, your health and your mana bar replenish. Your mana or your magic bar, they replenish when you sleep. But at a spiritual level, what happens is when you go to sleep, your consciousness picks timelines to go into while you're asleep. That's how you hear people say, "Oh, you changed overnight." It's literally because they phased into another reality. So if you're not getting proper sleep, you're not being able to choose the proper timeline, and it's bringing you down in vibration over time. Same thing if you have sleep apnea and you don't have enough oxygen coming in your body is pushing in survival mode in sleep. So it makes it harder for your body to take time to recover. So, like some of us want to eat before we go to bed. Like if you choose to eat something light like a fruit because fruits are electric. If you're eating like a big old bag of chips and french fries and stuff, that slows down your process of not only physical recovery, it slows down your spiritual recovery too. Sometimes when you don't have enough sleep, your subconscious, let me tell you this. I'm gonna tell you like this. Your body is on 24 hours.
Hmm.
Your physical form is only awake for a certain amount, but your spiritual form is on all the time. Your subconscious is on all the time. Sleep is important too because you can literally change your universe through your subconscious while you're asleep. So if you have headphones, for instance, you get a recording app or something. You say an affirmation as if you already had it, right? When you say this affirmation while you're asleep, you speak directly to your subconscious because while you're awake, your consciousness is up and at 'em and you're doing your normal life. But when you're asleep, your subconscious has like a megaphone on it, and whatever you say in your sleep will basically allow the universe to give you an opportunity. So let's say I want to be a millionaire, and I speak an affirmation. I appreciate being a millionaire already. I appreciate having abundance enough to do whatever I want, right? When you tell your subconscious this as you sleep, remember how I told you you choose timelines? This helps to guide you to that specific timeline. So when you wake up or when you rise, the universe sets opportunities up over time before you do it in order to give you the opportunities to reach what you already have. That's why sleep is so important too. Most people say I only sleep 3 or 4 hours. That's okay. You don't have to sleep 8 hours. The 8 hour sleep schedule was made for the 8 hour work schedule. My recommendation is the more electricity you put in your cells, the less sleep you will have to need. Minerals minerals, nutrients, and electricity. If you have these, you won't need as much sleep. I've been hearing a bunch of my followers and people telling me I've been waking up between 2 and 5 a.m. full of energy. It's because you're as the energy of the world rises, you the energy in your cells rise with it. So the energy from these cells help to sustain your body because you're an electromagnetic water being. So if you have enough electrical current running through you with minerals and nutrients, then you won't need as much sleep.
My brother, that is very key. And as I can hear the cosmic spiritual scientist in your breakdown. And in adding on to that, I will say, see, this is where, as you know, our intent when we sleep becomes very critical.
Hmm.
And there's a level of conciseness that has to be there because, in let's say, if you're dealing with an injury, you're going to require more sleep to offset the amount of trauma or drama that that particular part of the body or the whole body has just experienced.
Hmm.
Or, and I also recognize, like you say, based on how much electromagnetic energy you have flowing through you and how you choose to eat. And more importantly, I've referenced how you eliminate toxins is critical. You know, that's something I got deeper into when it comes to my GI tract and also my what they define as the microbiome. Oh my God. You're talking
Hmm.
about bacteria. You're talking about viruses. You're talking about parasites. You're talking about mold. You're talking about microorganisms that, from some of the studies I've done briefly, there's other microorganisms that they haven't even classified, that they don't even know exactly what the purpose is in the microbiome, but they're there, they see it, but they don't understand or overstand the functionality of the billions to trillions of microorganisms living in your gut, your intestinal tract, let alone all around your body, on your body, and inside your body. And then, so imagine what you're saying in regards to sleep and the fact that these bacteria, they're on 24/7 too.
Hmm.
They're on. And what I'm realizing is I got to help them with whether it's the chemtrails, whether it's other heavy metals and pollutants and toxins and bad energies and frequencies and vibrations. I have to help with the removal of this out of my energy field, auric field, my aura, let alone my GI, intestinal, digestive system tract. I have to remove this energy blockage because, as you know, the invisible becomes visible in our lives, but also in our digestive system.
Hmm.
And when they accumulate, I've come to understand. I was listening to a brother recently, and shout out to Black Magic 363. He had the brother, it wasn't just Billy Carson on, but it was my other brother, Dr. B, serious, delirious man. And Dr. B was going in on a mycelium network and bacteria and germs and pathogens. And I'm saying to myself, man, this thing is critical. And I know the deeper I got into understanding my GI tract, I said, wait a minute. Because, you know, sometimes we have a lot of gas.
Hmm.
And then you be like, man, my gas is stronger at times. And there's times where there's no scent in my gas. I'm like, man, my gas don't stink.
Hmm.
You know, it wasn't until someone said, no, it don't stink for you because you're used to it, but it stinks for me. But for me, it didn't. It didn't have a scent for me in certain moments because I'm very sensitive as I've developed my sense of smell, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm spicy.
Extra
Ooh-wee.
crispy.
I'm extra crispy, man. And before you jump back in, my brother, you are correct. Even all that means something. The spiciness, the intensity of the aroma, the overall scent. You know, there's times where, man, my gas can go for about, I swear to God, maybe 20, 30 seconds. And I can see my stomach literally not only expand but decrease. I mean, it's amazing how, that's something that I'm a major promoter of. You got to get that gut health in check as well, because without these microorganisms, you can't stay in this physical.
Mm-mm.
You can't stay in this dimension or in this physical, because they've, as I come to understand, they've partnered or there's another reference. They've given their will so that our will can flourish or expand, because they can easily wipe us out.
Oh yeah.
Any comments? Anything you want to add to it, my brother?
Oh yeah. So your stomach is actually your second brain, is what they call it. It's also one of your energy cores of your body. Whenever you have a craving for salt, sugar, or something like that, it's parasites in your stomach sending signals to your upper brain in order to feed the craving of the parasite. That's why cleaning out your stomach with parasite detoxes are important. Cutting out processed foods, certain starches sometimes. Certain foods help to regenerate these parasites continually. And as these parasites sit in your stomach for long periods of time, they start to cause disease as well. So taking care of your gut is very, very important because, as I said, it's your second brain and it's also one of your energy cores. If your energy core is off, it throws the rest of your body off as well. So your three energy cores is your third eye, your heart, and your stomach. If one of those are off, those also help to indicate what type of disease you may have, because each disease has a frequency to it as well. So each one of your body parts and organs are different frequencies. And when your parasites are sending signals to your brain, they throw off your natural body part frequencies. And that's where some of that disease starts accumulating as well. So taking care of your gut is super important. Vitality is our power over anything else. It doesn't matter how much money you got. It doesn't matter how many cars you got. If your vitality isn't on point, you won't get to enjoy any of that at all.
My brother, you're correct, and that is another, as I like to say, master key of evolution
Mm-hmm.
is your gut health, or that solar center, or that sun center of intelligence at your
Mm-hmm.
core. That's your other sun center. Just like the earth has in its core a sun.
Mm-hmm.
So the sun is everywhere at all times. And that cosmic light or energy, as I come to understand, there's a wonderful sister who's been putting in some work. She probably got 30 plus years in regards to dealing with a level of consciousness and dealing with our health and talk in regards to our inner digestive states as well as our spiritual state, is the sister Dr. Jewel Poperum. She goes in heavy, I mean heavy, about not only skin, organs, regeneration, energy, the sun, melanin, carbon, the connection, plants. And she's been at this 30 plus years. And I will say, she has a book called, which I got to finish, called Vitamins and Minerals A through Z with Ethno Consciousness. I have to finish that book, but I'm so high off this conversation right here. My thoughts are kind of skipping and jumping a little bit. But my brother, that going back to the solar sun within us, that's a very critical central point. And the point I was going to make earlier is that she speaks on that we have to understand that energy is information. On
This is
one level, or ancient knowledge or wisdom based on your level and frequency and how you decipher those waves of energy and break them down into photon packets. And in saying that, she was stating that commonly referenced. She says, well, the sun produces all this light or energy, and we're bombarded with information or ancient knowledge and wisdom all the time.
All the time.
And not only that, she was saying, well, and others have spoken about, because she's a I believe she has a background in neuroscience as well. I mean, she goes in very deep. And there's others out there who get into neurosciences, and they can make the connection with neuroscience and spirituality, and how if you don't understand that there's information, well, how can I say this? You have access to all these templates of ideas and thoughts that are not original. We think is original, but it already exists. You just uploaded and downloaded the right form of communication or the template needed to create something or design something or to act with something or to let something go or to release it. And then you throw in your emotions and your feelings and all these other things that we do to make it more dense. But from a lighter standpoint, it's a gas. It's a gas of light, or it's light colored or light filled in gas. Using my common layman's reference. But there's ancient knowledge and wisdom constantly raining down on us, constantly going through a biological chemical process within us. Any other thoughts to that, my brother? I'm in a high off of what you're saying and pulling into these circuits, and so I'm a little jumping a little bit, but go ahead.
So in all of your DNA and DEA, yeah, deoxyethric, long story short, some people have DEA, usually melanated folks, but in your second strand that they call junk, there is transcriptions and codes, right? These codes translate with the sun's rays. So just like she said, certain information resonates with you more because your code matches the type of information that is provided. So we all have access to all the information in the world. Everything is already created. Everything is already done. This is called the Akashic records. You may have heard that a couple times. You may have heard people talk about this. Some people ask, how do I access these records? As you increase the electricity within your body, you are able to pull in more light from the sun and more light from the universe. The universe works off a code called Adinkra, Adinkra. It's the same code that Google uses, right? All technology is based off of us. So let me give you an example. People go to the internet in order to get information. What if I told you we have what's called an Ethernet? The Ethernet is basically the cosmic Google. The Akashic records are the cosmic Google for all the information in the universe. And the way to access it, as I said, as you increase the electricity and open up your circuitry and your circuit board in your body spiritually and physically, you're able to access more of this information. So it's like walking in the library, right? Your frequency, energy, and vibration is your pass. They have different floors. When you're walking on the first floor, instead of picking the books yourself, the books will fall off the shelves that help you to increase your electricity. And as you get this different book knowledge, life experiences, that's what these things are. As you get more of these books falling onto you, you're able to go to the next floor. On the next floor, you're able to pick one book at a time. And then as you raise and go up the floors, it'll get to the point to where you can pull any kind of information from anywhere, because you have resonated your energy to a light spectrum high enough to gain any information you need. That's how powerful your second strand of DNA is. You're literally a part of the universe. You have 13.6 billion years of information just sitting in there, chilling.
And if you don't mind me jumping back in real quick, that timeline or that time reference, as in how old we are, I come to realize again they're using carbon dating. Other higher dimensional beings, maybe they may use, light year dating, or beyond light year dating. So I realize that's, in my humble opinion, anything we come across, these are just
Ref-
prospects or references.
references.
Yeah, or potentials, possibles, other formulas to describe something that is very, very ancient and very old. And then, they like to chop up that timeline too when you start throwing, religion in there, and who was first man and where was man created. And we can't make you seem too old now. We can't let you know that second strand is that old, even though they will tell you, through evolution and, talking about the Homo sapiens and how old is Homo sapien, and you'll get a billion date reference. Then you go into then they go into Homo erectus out of Africa. And erectus was 2.5, 3 billion, or 3.5 or something within that reference. And I'm saying to myself, wow. And then, the way information is always changing, or even what we call facts, even facts or even truths change based on the more exposure to light and the truth of that light we attach to, let's just say, or even our second strand. And I realized that the more I've pushed to want to search and activate what they define to be junk DNA, and I'm glad you went back to that with that second strand, and I definitely want you to elaborate some more on that if you can, how critical it is in these times to get to know your second strand, and I mean to stimulate some frequency and vibration. I know a lot of times we want to jump into just opening right away. And I've learned in my own evolution that unless I'm ready for that, or that's in my agreement somewhere, I got to be able to handle, that's a lot of light at once. And there's a lot of people who go crazy or become psychotic because of the things they've tapped into using, certain what's the word I'm looking for? Is it psychotropics or any alternate state of mind-altering chemicals or substances? You got to be ready for what you open up and what you see. And will you do damage and fracture or bring up old trauma and drama in connection with that new opening or behind the veil reality that you just touched into? And bringing my point to a quick close, I've learned it is very, very key. I always, ask for knowledge and information, knowledge, and wisdom in a way that, number one, I'm ready for it. Number two, I'm willing to sacrifice for it. And number three, I'm willing to build on it and also further my evolution. Because again, these ancient spiritual processes or processes, as they like to, we're going to be grammatically correct. You know how the English is. I like to put the slang on it, and we speak in code and stuff too. So as I like, opening up these spiritual processes or processes, it can get very deep, and you have to be ready and willing to handle what you see, because these processes, these dimensional openings or reality connections do not care about whether you got to go to work, whether you got to go take a dump, whether you got to go eat, whether you're dealing with a divorce, relationship breakup, whether you're dealing with, I'm moving, I just lost this, I lost everything. All this is a part of what you agreed in your own personal cosmic soul contract, death contract of your own personal tree of life. And you have to be willing and ready to handle and move through these cycles. And I know it sounds easier said than done, but based on one's level of commitment and practice and acceptance, that's something I've had to learn very deep over my years, is accepting when things quote unquote go wrong. No, that's part of the plan to going right. What's going wrong is going right because I've been out of alignment. And then we get mad at the forces for putting you back on alignment when you've asked for it. So if you're living a total lie, and that's relative to each and every one of us, based on your purpose and your passion. Now, I know we all have to eat, we all have to live, and that's still relative. But there's deeper commitments we all committed to. And once you realize that and you awaken to that, you're now responsible and accountable for what you say you now know or wanted to know or now what you've reactivated and awakened, whether it's through your second strand, through your chakras, or whatever ancient spiritual evolutionary process, you have to now build on that or manage it. Now, of course, there's always free will, as they say in this dimension. You can opt out at any time if that's within your contract or your agreement. But for some of us, that could mean opting out of this dimension altogether. There was something real quick. If you want to, if you can add on both dimensions real quick with this other thought. I know a lot of people have heard, in the media or through social media, the brother DJ Twitch, and again, I'm only loosely familiar with him. I don't necessarily watch the Ellen DeGeneres show, but I am aware, in my years of scrolling, you see things, you come across people, and they say that the brother committed suicide at 40 last month, and they state that within his note he left, he talked about he was tired of living a lie. If I have it correct, and again, I apologize if it's not correctly stated, because you know how the media is. Things are 1 minute is fake news, it's real news, it's half right, it's half true. But if going off of this point, if he stated in his suicide note he was tired of living a lie. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning this brother looks happy. I'm still seeing things with him popping up on TikTok with his family. He looked happy to me. I didn't see a level of frequency of shadow or darkness, but again, that's the way we become great actors and actresses. We've learned to separate and mask things so well, where it's like Batman and the Joker night and day. We go from being superhero to a supervillain, all within. And again, this, if the reports are correct, this brother said he was tired of living a lie. He hit the opt out, I'm done button, and he's out of this dimensional realm of existence physically. Any thoughts on the past comment in regards to what you were stating and this now other point I just referenced?
Yes. So when it comes to your energy, your chakra points, some people do jump ahead. When you jump ahead and don't solve previous chakra points, so you don't have to go in the order of root chakra, crown, and go down up. Some people come in with a higher chakra point than others, right? The key thing to remember is that in order to solve the electricity issue, you have to solve the issues of your life. When you solve the issues of your life, it'll naturally stabilize you. Like if I had a low root chakra and I'm always working on my third eye chakra, my third eye might be high, but since my root is so low, I'm not getting the full potential of my crown chakra. But as soon as I start working on my security and foundation, it stabilizes naturally. So some people, like you said, want to forcefully open up stuff and are not ready for that energy when it comes in. And that's how so many people adios, and because it was so much energy at one time, their bodies didn't have enough time to process it mentally and spiritually. Some people can't handle that much at one time. And some of these people, let me give you an example. Let me give you some words. Media in Greek is the goddess of illusions. So whenever you see social media, it's a social illusion. So many people have their eyes in watching celebrities and watching people do these types of different lives. They're like, I want that life. Not knowing you already have that in you. We always are shown a lack of when we're all infinite. We have infinite abundance, infinite wealth, infinite love. We have these available to us, but we're brought up in social structures that keep our minds in a certain frame that we always lack. We're the only beings that pay to live on a planet, for example. Why are we paying to live on a free planet? That makes no sense. It's a social construct. We can all go out in the woods right now and start building houses. Could nobody do nothing? All the paperwork, we could just say we don't want paperwork no more. But it's social constructs, and that goes with your environments. Like they set certain environments up for certain groups of people in order for them not to understand that they have more instead of lack of. And these micro increments still affect you if you have money. So you see some of these people with money. I'm a party bus limo driver by trade,
Mm,
and I meet millionaires and stuff all the time, and I
mm.
have like deep conversations with them. And some of these people, when they get their money, they get family members out of nowhere. Everybody wants to give them a business proposal out of nowhere. You start getting a bunch of people trying to scam you for money. People think it's, oh, just because you got more money, it makes you a better person. It doesn't. What it is, it's an energy exchange and a network exchange. The more energy and network you have, the more of a millionaire you are. Because at the end of the day, these are just items we use on this plane of existence in order to exist in a social construct that was created to keep us limited. That was the whole purpose of this. And just like the guy, Twitch, you see a lot of celebrities like that. They show you, oh, I'm doing this, and rappers too. And you'll see all these rappers with in cars and stuff. Some of y'all don't know that's rented. That they don't own that. Some of them rappers be in debt. When they sign that contract, the company will give them a loan, thinking that's free money. You gonna pay that back. It's just how much effort you gonna put in. Some of these people get so far in debt that they'll never pay the company back, and then you see them throwing money and stuff. Some of that is fake money in some of those videos. Some
Right.
of that is
Look,
just
prop money,
little
as they
prop
call it.
money. Yeah, and this is why I tell people, don't fall for the social illusions. Just focus on what you can control, because when it comes down to it, you can watch all these people do the life you want all day, and then that prevents you from going get that life because you think you're limited because of the social construct, and you want to get out of your limited mindset, that visualization of abundance, saying it out to the universe every day. I'm abundant. I do it every day. I
Mm.
say I'm abundant. I have an infinite wealth, infinite love, and the universe provides me with that because I reflect that energy out.
My brother, I agree. And in adding on to that, man, I mean, you touched on many critical points in regards to, a social construct. And that social construct we're living in has done a hell of a job of downgrading, downplaying, reverse engineering this human or this spiritual human experience. And, when you lose all sense of what one defines as real reality and artificial reality, I mean, it's a hell of a fall from grace, and it's something that is life altering. And I will say that's the main thing. I've One of the master keys I'm learning as well when it comes to balancing duality in this social construct, being more specific with words. It's relative, but it is very critical, and one has to be concise in what you want or want to experience, because there is a responsibility. We ask for a lot of things, and there is a major responsibility in acquiring or getting these things in the physical or third D as we experience it. And I realized that, currency, or what we call, money, even though it's, legal tender, and, this notice, for all debts, public and private, that's a whole, you can look at a dollar bill or something. I may not have the breakdown exact, but it says this note is legal tender for all debts. I think it says either public and private, or this note is legal tender for all debts, something like that. I don't have a dollar bill on me or in front of me, but
Hmm.
I know when they had the gold certificates and silver certificates, there was a little bit of a variation of that wordplay.
Hmm.
But staying on focus, currency, your energy. If
Yep.
you look at let's just say $1 or 100 or a grand, you look at that bill, that note, it has synthetic fibers, red and blue, and at one point they were more natural fibers than they were synthetic. I've come to understand over the years that the form of there's not as much cotton in it as it once was, and even those fibers are more dyed fibers now that are mixed with this synthetic paper. And when you think about it, when you say you accidentally, let's say, wash, a 5, a 10, a 20, $100, or even $1,000 bill, or how about that $2 bill? How about that $2 bill? Look, come on now. I mean, when I first saw a $2 bill, but I'm gonna stay focused. and it'll survive a few washes,
Mm-hmm.
but it ain't gonna survive, a 50 to 100.
Mm-mm.
It's gonna start to break down, deteriorate, and let me say this: it's gonna be critical based on the time you wash it and you dry it. Are you air drying it, or are you using the high volume on the dryer, which will, definitely help to cook it? And then you start to see the dye fade, and and other things deteriorate, and before you know it, you can't tell $1,000 bill from a $1.
Mm-hmm.
At a certain point, you lose all the symmetry and the texture and the feel. But I have washed a few and even dried a few, actually, not knowing, and man, it was, you iron it up, I put some starch on it, and he was back right, and but then and going to your point, it's all currency backed by who?
Us.
Us. And that's something that I've come to learn in some of my creative law studies, that we're the ones backing the public debt. All debt is backed on the people.
Mm-hmm. From the beginning.
It's always been that way. Now they put a flip on it with gold at one point, because they said people were actually paying things off, or they were quote unquote fully owning. I don't know, because as long as you're still being taxed, as long as they can still levy you, take you to court, file a judgment, put a lien against you, eminent domain, I don't know if you fully was buying it. It may seem like it was, because I guess at that point there wasn't, I don't know if there was as much loans or much predatory loans going on at that point. Maybe in certain, parts of, let me take that back. In its social construct, within a certain group of people, there was a whole lot of predatory going on versus others. Now I realized too that we had some exceptions to the rule. Because I always want to be fair but honest, but yet true within my level of study. There's always exceptions to the rule. If you go back to Black Wall Street, you go back to the times where, we had communities that were booming. The investment was flipping 20 times over. Everybody was eating well.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go bombing people. You go breaking down their communities and lynching people and robbing and pillaging and raping. And I mean, when I heard some of the stuff that happened in Philadelphia and happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I mean, you bomb and you lynch. I mean, some of this, and I'm still evolving with, how I touch on certain historical points. But there's been, I think, a couple specific areas within the U.S. continent where they've bombed certain states and with certain cities within certain states. They dropped bombs from planes.
Yep.
On whole neighborhoods of people. Go ahead, my brother.
They didn't want to see us thrive like that. So most people know about Black Wall Street in Oklahoma. There's been about 7 of those across the United States. Each one had met some kind of bombing. They had one called Lake Lanier, where they literally flooded the whole town. They had another one where they put like dynamite on their foundation, like a dynamite or explosive like substance on their foundations, in order for them not to be able to be their own. And we've done this a couple times to unify together, but every time we unify, you notice it deducts from their social construct they wanted to set up. So as we unify more and more, you see people develop, like, I remember they had a garden one year. I think it was in New York or Georgia. They had a garden that the community was setting up, right? One day, everybody came outside and the whole garden was tore down. Nobody heard anything. How can you do that with nobody hearing anything?
Right.
That's not normal. So every time we've ever came together in big quantities, there's always been some kind of force, or like you said, Tulsa, they literally used bombs from airplanes to destroy the town, because the dollar backed by, for instance, melanin people, we make up trillions of dollars a year, trillions of dollars. So when you take that away, as you develop your own, it takes away for certain beings' pockets, and they don't like it when you unify to create your own. And then that's when all that crazy stuff started happening. And they've been doing that for a long period in time. Every time we've come together to be unified and collective, and we exchange and barter, some beings don't want to see that because they know that when we combine, our collective power is way stronger than anything they can put down on us. Look at all the stuff we've been through and look at all we came through, and we still rising.
Man, and that's the most transformative part of this human evolutionary experience in third dimension, is that inner sun will rise, the light will shine, and even when there's darkness, there's light, because all light together is darkness.
Mm-hmm.
That's dark matter. The light of the dark matter, you absorb all light, pitch black. There's still light in the darkness, but based on our level of consciousness or perception, we may not see the light in the darkness, or we may not become like certain creatures and entities bioluminescent or bioluminescent. You got certain species and organisms deep in the ocean, they bioluminescent. They produce light where there is the darkness in water, and what looks to be no sunlight, they produce that inner light. And some of these, I've seen some things on what they call that name of that island. It just slipped my my train of thought. Guapados.
Guantanamo, Galapagos.
I can't my pronunciation of these words. Look, G Island, I'm gonna call it for short. In G Island, you got birds with 4 legs. You got other animals and things that got 2 that should have 4, or may have more than that. They got things in the water bioluminescent. I mean, I think I saw a fish with either 1 eye, 2 eyes, 4 eyes, no eyes. It was just across the spectrum. Mm-hmm. I got to go back and refresh what was going on in Galapagos. G Island for short for me. I'm gonna say GP Island. Right now I'm excited. I can't even get the pronunciation. I'll be wondering where the hell these words coming from. And a lot of it, it goes back to the Latin, and it means Guapadilla or Guapacia. But with all that said, it's deep, as you know, and as I'm beginning to deeply understand to know, there's so much that exists. But going back real quick to that social construct and that point you were making. There's always a washing, a rinsing, a cycling. You turn up the heat, and then the cycle goes back again. And what I'm learning is that, nonetheless, the truth of the light, the cosmic, melanated, dark force of the ancient light will always rise and shine. And that ancient DNA will always activate. And the souls that are coming into planet now, you see it with some of these, quote unquote, teenagers or people in their 20s or even early 30s, man, some of the stuff they're saying and doing it's phenomenal. And of course there's another spectrum to it when it comes to how open, this quote unquote, structured society has become in regards to, how much we show ourselves and, the vulgarity and things like that. But my thing is, we always got to do our best to balance and filter and be relative to what your mission and purpose is. I see things, but I spend only so much quote unquote space time in certain channels because of where my frequency is, humbly speaking. I have to focus where I'm meant to build and to evolve from. I like being aware and being informative and knowledgeable, but I have to also focus my laser beam or my wisdom beam in certain areas to regenerate, to replenish, because some of these rabbit holes or visual, shock treatments to the eye, can be not only distracting, but definitely reverse manipulating on where you're wanting to go in your focus and what's your purpose and passion here. And like you said, we have to do our best to balance this duality and balance currency and balance how much do you need? How much do you have to have? What makes you happy spiritually? What are you willing to live with? How are you willing to live? That's all relative. And each, spirit or soul makes its choice in what it wants to, experience, not experience. And my thing is always, of course, humbly speaking, to each his own. But I have to make sure that I'm on point in where I go and what I do because of the agreement and the contract that I've not only written, but have become awakened back to. And
Mm-hmm.
when you wake up to what you helped to put in place as a co-author and creator of this experience, physically and spiritually, I mean, it's to me, it's out of this world when you start to merge your light body self. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
awaken it, emerge with it, and then be able to feel light on your skin and to feel your, that biological chemical transfer of the darkening of your outer skin and your inner skin. That inner melanin, that neuromelanin.
Mm-hmm.
I go through my winter seasons, and based on my study and stuff, I'm in the house much more than I should be, and I have to constantly tell myself to get out more so I can get that nice bronze tan and darken up. And I realize the more I challenge my own DNA and my own perception of color and melanin, the more I can absorb these light particles, the more I can activate that inner skin melanin and being able to represent it fuller in my outer shell, as
Mm-hmm.
well as how long can I hold that particular amount of melanin. Because if you notice, when you're in the sun a lot longer, everybody in the spring, summer wants to be in the sun, no matter
Mm-hmm.
how pale, or as some may say, Michael Jackson remix Vitiligo pale you might be. You gonna get a sense of a tan.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. From I know Dr. Blair talks about. He would say, you can't live under a sun without melanin.
Nope.
When I know Dr. Jewel Pokum goes in on, you have melanin dominant and melanin recessive. So melanin in all its stages, whether it's what looks to be white pale or what looks to be blue, black, purple, and everything else, it's a powerful agent. And I come to recognize that I have influence over my internal and external melanin. And that's something else I've been working on with being around crystals and gemstones. You got to realize, to me, that's your original vita minerals, is the crystals and gemstones.
Mm-hmm.
And,
There's more to it than them too. It's more. So real quick,
go ahead,
the
jump in, my brother. Go ahead.
just real quick, the crystals, they retain electrical charges as well. So some of us, let me give you some game. So we used to speak with telepathy, right? Telepathy is electronic thought, electromagneticity coming out, right? So let's say I had a crystal. Back in the day, if I had a crystal, I would look at the crystal, I would put my thought energy into this crystal, and I could give it to you, and you could watch it like a DVD player and see exactly what I'm seeing. That's one of the original purposes of crystals. Another purpose of crystals were to carry electrical charges, just like your thoughts. Let's say I wanted to, let's say you needed, like on a video game, you know how people give you crystals or gems in order to heal you? I could give you a portion of energy in order to heal something on you, sort of like a little health boost for you. That's another purpose of crystals. That's why they're so important. Some of them are made out of glass, so you got to be careful what crystals you purchase, wherever you purchase them from.
True.
But one thing I always tell people is that you have to recharge your crystals too. So you can recharge them in a full sun or a full moon, depending on what the crystal is. Each one provides a different type of charge towards the crystal. So if you have them, make sure you recharge your crystals. Make sure you ground them. You can hold them in your hands while you meditate. You can put them in the sun, let them sit in the sun, or a full moon, you let them charge. That's so important. If you just holding them all the time, sometimes you're holding dead rock. But when you charge them, that's what makes it crystal.
And adding to that, my brother, I will say too, is that I've learned to, sometimes I rinse them off with very cold hot. First, I heat them up with hot water and then
Hmm.
cool it off.
Hmm.
And I kind of recognize too, certain times of the year, crystals being the type of intelligence that they are, they're very super, super sensitive to energy from the sun, from the moon, water, your energetic auric field, the environment you place in, just anything within this dimension they absorb, they're record keepers, they're time keepers, and they definitely will speak to you and heal you. And I realized that because they grow, from my understanding, you got them in cave systems, you have them around the banks of certain rivers or oceans, you have them within certain mountainous areas, you have them deep within deep layers in the core of the earth. You have variations of colors of crystals and gemstones. You got your diamonds, your emeralds, your rubies. To me, those are just variations of crystals as well. But it gets very intense in regards to if they have more silica versus iron, if you get into the chemistry, based on how, Western scientists break them down. And that's something else I was seeing too. One's more silica, one's more iron, like a rock. But nonetheless, they all have what they call it, trace, this is a term called trace minerals, but they all have traces, I like to say, trace minerals or trace fragments of the environment that they're in due to storms, hurricanes, cyclones, typhoons, whatever it may be, just brought on through travel. And that influences the chemistry or the makeup of the soil. Mm-hmm. And if you notice certain crystals, because my top 3 stones, which they all tied for number 1 now, is clear quartz, meteorite, and you have lava stone for me, as well as, what's the 4th one? There's a 4th one that's my top 4. Crystal, meteorite, lava stone, and it's a 4th one in there that are like I believe it might be hematite, but magnet, anything that's magnetic, like that has a high, strong magnetic property. Oh, and I forgot now copper. So let me take that back. It's my top 5. So it's crystals, it is lava stone, it's meteorite, it's copper, and it's anything magnetic. And of course they to me they all the top 5 as in 1. Mm-hmm. But and adding on some more to what you're saying, my brother. Now I'm gonna give a shout out, and I don't know the sister, but definitely want to interview her and some of the other guests you've had. Quiet Crew a few sessions back was going in on about crystals and the connection to the physical body, and she was starting to talk about the activation of your chakra systems and your organs. And I know that's true because I know the experiences I've had and all the experiments. And as you see, I got my quartz on, and my hematite, my lava stone. I got some copper underneath. I got this other form of meteorite. And with all that said, and I love them all. Deep down, they really are all my number 1. It's just those are the top 5 stones or crystals that I work with the most. But I love them all. I have a spectrum of all of them that I put under my bed, as well as I sleep under my pillow. But I don't want to lose my thought going back to Quiet Crew. Yeah. But when she mentioned it, and I know the conversation went to another angle after that. But that connection with the chakras, we don't understand, and I'm gonna say it humbly speaking, and taking what she was saying in regards to these stones and their activation of the vitamins and the minerals that not only that we eat or ingest, not only the plants and the vegetables or the fruits that we grow, but also they're the core, as I like to say, magnetic, electric, magnetic engine to activating and awakening your chakra system. And what I mean by that is it takes a lot of electromagnetism or magnetic electrotism to awaken that chakra outside of the density that it's commonly compacted in. Mm-hmm. So in order for you to bring that other strand of DNA on, I've come to learn you have to raise your frequency and vibration a lot higher naturally with the, I'm going to say, to me, it's critical that you use crystals and gemstones because that's your original source and the engine for all the foods and the vital minerals we see on the ground and that make up the foods. Because what do you think the plants and the trees are doing? They're if you pull up a root to any, I don't care if it's a weed or whatever, or a little tree, you're gonna see all these fine, where there's sand, there's dirt, all this fine nutrients in the soil, fine minerals being absorbed, and with the help of the sun and water, it's just chemical conversion and remix happening. And in staying on the point, I realized that one has to add more crystalline or magnetic electric crystalline in their auric field if you want to really activate, in my humble opinion, and come on. Now, there's some people who may have tried to, I've heard of someone saying, well, I would bang my tailbone on the floor. I don't know if I want to do that. I think it was the brother of, and giving him some shout out, the Reverend Phil Valentine. I think he talked about some of the ways that one can raise that Kundalini energy from the sacral, or the sacrum. He was speaking on the, if I have it correct, the coccyx, my bad, from the coccyx bone in connection with the sacrum. I'm not gonna bang my tailbone on the ground. There's other. I'm gonna say imbalanced ways without being as physically intrusive. And then before you jump back in, I've recognized that the crystals and the gemstones are the core. To me, that's your subatomic energy that connects to I'm gonna use the term, your subatomic biology. And that connection, or that synergy, creates the awakening within that frozen or ancient or junk DNA, because I'm realizing you need a heavy charge. You need a heavy magnetic electric charge to get that cell, whatever part of that cell engine, to come online. And if you can get the cell engine to come online, I'm realizing, and I'm coming to learn, it will cause a chain reaction. Because remember, atoms and molecules, they love to do what? Bond, right? They're always looking for pairs. Now, the numbers may not always even, as they say subatomically or atomically, they may not always pair appropriately, but nonetheless, their bonding is always present. And if I remember correctly, again, in my reference, when you take your chakra centers and you use the specific colors. Now, I've come to learn this with the color thing. You have the general chart of the rainbow reflection, but certain chakra points may need certain crystal or stone energy. So you may intuitively be told, look, I need you to place a quartz on your heart. Now, I've come to learn quartz, as it is a reflector or a refractor of light, represents all spectrums of the 7 primary colors, as well as the colors we can't see and identify. And I'm realizing, based on my thoughts, my spiritual evolutionary state, and if I'm granted access into those doorways, because I'm learning that, and I've also experienced, you got guardians at these sacred energy vortex sites. And if you ain't coming with the right frequency of energy, you're not getting that full access or any access to that ancient spiritual high technology of fully awakening that junk DNA. They're not going to allow it to do what it's already been done. And I've realized in some of my experiences with some of these guardians, man, it's real.
It's real.
And the ones I've seen are ancient Kemetic, ancient Olmec, at least from the experiences I've had. Or some say the Olmec Maya, because they say that their knowledge and wisdom was handed down from the Olmecs, because they're the elders of the region in Central America. But definitely those, and like I say, of the old systems, the old ancient or the old world, the Olmec, as we commonly reference, the ancient Cometians, you got the Mayans, you got the Aztecs, you got Mixtec, Zapotec, there's other variations, and then you got the ancient Hindu, the Vedics. I got some ancient, I forgot the name of the other ancient aspects of China. You got other pyramids and aspects, as you know, all over the world. So there's other civilizations we don't even know about, Atlantis, Mu, other beings that may have other names that we haven't fully discovered or being kept from us in its discovery. But whatever ancient system of civilization, I know we have certain primary that's being digged from in Western society that has influenced a lot, but the ancient Nagas in India, the Vedics, the Hindus, I'm recognizing that you see a variation of the same people from what I can see. But I'm coming to understand too that that gets even deep too regarding what cosmology or star system or how close they were to a specific sun and how they transferred or exchanged energy or what we commonly reference DNA, how they influence each other's physiology and biology. And as I keep an open mind to all this, and before you jump back in, definitely the point to add on, because as you know, these subjects are so deep.
Oh yeah.
And I can tell the way you are, you love to be detailed, as I do too, with breaking it down, because that's the fuse. You gotta fuse it. See, when you can make that bond fuse, you now break open to another level of bonding. And then now you have the bond so strong it can't be broken. So now that's magnetic. See, that's the magnetic is the bond. And then when you fuse it with enough heat or electricity, now you can call in other energy and other elements to help recycle that same magnetic electric charge. But and I know I'm jumping around in some aspects, but it definitely I'm gonna let you jump back in. But just tying this other thought up, it's powerful. And again, there's guardians to this. People want to force open their chakras. I'm recognizing you may stimulate your chakra. You may come into an awareness of feeling it move. And that's great because you're coming online more with how super sensitive your melanin and your spiritual consciousness really is. We are all super sensitive to everything. Everything impacts us. There's a cycle of impacting, expecting, impacting, reacting, connecting. There's a constant charge going on. And then tying it up real quick, and I definitely want you to jump back in. It's so critical that these processes are respected. And I'm realizing, the forces see how out of order things are. And at this point, it's like, one big free for all and how we want to awaken, whether it's the Kundalini or the ancient serpent power within, the coccyx or the root chakra, and how you raise that up through each chakra and how it intertwines within itself as it raises itself, through the throat and into the first eye, through the crown. But in bringing it home, I'm recognizing that, there's a responsibility. And the problem is people have hijacked and people have forced their way into certain spiritual doors or sold certain aspects of this ancient knowledge and wisdom out. And now you see the time a lot of us are reawakening and coming into as the planet and the solar shifts and the solar flares happening. And look at all these deep weather, quote unquote, anomalies. I keep hearing these meteorologists say, well, this is a once in a lifetime storm. This is once in a generation. I ain't never heard of a bomb cyclone with some sort of, river rainstorm or something they were calling it, again, a bomb cyclone. Some of this, this stuff is happening in a way that it seems like it's normal day-to-day business, but we have a cosmic shift, a planetary change happening. And jump back in, my brother. Come on in.
I got you.
We just crossed the hour and 23 mark. Go ahead, my brother. Go ahead. I appreciate the time on it. Go ahead.
So what's happening right now is a geomagnetic electromagnetic pole shift. Every 25,920 years, the Earth goes through this shift. When the shift happens, it allows more energy to enter Earth, not just from the sun, but from the inside of Earth as well. So the ozone layer is actually opening up. As this ozone layer opens up, we get more UV rays. The UV rays help to upgrade from carbon to crystalline, as you spoke of earlier. When you were talking about the crystal.
Oh, my brother, I'm gonna keep going. Man.
For points.
There you go. Let me bring you back. Oh, man, look at that magic. You're back.
Notice how all the chakra, all the jewels and crystals that you use are similar to the same colors of the chakra points. There's a reason why they are their color, to show you this may help this energy point. This may help this energy point. And it's just like you said, Each energy point has your own internal guardian. And if you're not ready for that energy yet, you will be pushed back. You will have a repulsed energy, like you
Mm.
said. When you use quartz, think of quartz as a universal jewel. It'll reflect whatever energy is reflected to it, especially if you wrap it in copper. That's that's how we used to grow things. For some of you who are gardeners, you should look up electroculture. So they
Mm.
would have pyramid-like structures made of copper, and at the top they would put quartz crystals, wrap it in quartz, the quartz itself, wrap it in copper wiring, and take the wiring and wrap it around the, if it's a triangle, you wrap it around one the edges, right? And you take a wire and you stick it into the ground to get more electromagneticity towards your fruits, plants, or whatever else you grow. You can do the same thing with a garden bed. If you make a wood garden bed, put a copper wiring around the whole, as much copper wiring as you want. You combine the edge, the end, and stick it into the earth. This provides more electrical charge for the plants. So let's say your yield is normally 2 feet. When you use this electromagnetic current, it would make it to 6 feet. We used to have tomatoes that used to grow as big as my head. We used to have cabbages that was probably bigger than both of our heads put together,
Mm.
because they use the electromagneticity of the earth. They actually have a patent for electroculture in the European patents in Google.
Mm.
And this is how we used to grow our this is how we used to grow big yields before we had fertilizer.
Mm.
This is why electromagneticity is so important to us. This is why your chakra points are so important. This is why crystals are so important, because these help to increase the electromagnetic currents that you produce every day, as we spoke of earlier. And these tie into everything we do. If you're forcefully opening some point on your body and you're not ready for that electrical surge or charge, it may throw you into disarray and refract another type of energy, and it may throw something else off on your body, causing an imbalance. That's why you have to, like you said, you have to be careful about what chakra points you are trying to open, and if you're ready for that electrical charge to come into your being, because it will redirect your life into another wave that you don't want to be in. This is like whenever you go into a room, your heart shoots out like a sonar wave to another soul, because our souls are connected and we always want to connect. Your soul will shoot out a sonar electromagnetic wave at a person. So let's say you hear people all the time say, I don't get a good feeling about that person. It's because your energetic level can determine that their field of energy is incompatible with yours based off of how your toroidal field or your aura is. That's where that feeling comes from. This is that electromagneticity in action. And like you said, with crystals, if you have certain crystals on you, this help to either amplify and attract or repel certain energies depending on what crystals you have. That's why you see people wear crystals. It's not just for protection. Some of these crystals are to enhance internal energies, enhance auras, keep a certain vibe or wavelength about them, so that when people come around, it's like, oh, okay, you're a pretty cool person. I like being around you because you give off that vibe, is what they call it. Vibe is a vibration. That's what you're giving off. That's why it's so important. And when you're looking at um, life, like I said earlier, your reflections, when you use some of these crystals, let's say quartz, you'll start to refract some of their energy so much, you're like, wait a minute. Some of the crystals will start changing colors.
Mm.
Some crystals change colors when they have so much electromagnetic frequency, it'll start changing the characteristics of the crystal,
Mm.
because it's so um at a molecular level. It's just like your mouth. There was a doctor, Dr. Mazuri Emoto. who did an experiment with water. So he put two glasses of water next to each other. In one of the glasses, he spoke positive affirmations. And then one of the other glasses, he spoke negative affirmations. And when he grabbed the water in a microscope at a molecular level, the positive affirmation water literally changed molecules and it looked like a snowflake.
Wow.
But the other one, the one he spoke negatively into, it looked like Oscar the Grouch. And in structure, this is why that your voice is so important, because it's another electromagnetic frequency. Same thing with your subconscious. These two combined together are your electromagnetic microphone. This is why it's so important to watch what you say, watch what kind of crystals you have, speak onto things. You know how people pray before they eat? That's very important, because you literally change the characteristics of what you're drinking, eating, using by putting the right intent on it. Even if it feels like it's something wrong, once you switch that mindset, it changes the charge of whatever it is as well.
Oh, brother, you on point and you are correct. And in adding to that, the chakra points or the chakra systems in conjunctions to the organ systems, your endocrine glandular system. Oh me,
Man.
this is where, from what I've learned, this is where you get into that secret healing, physical change in real 3D time, third dimensional time. You literally, if the magnetic charge is right and the consciousness in alignment with that is right, and if you're granted access, you can spontaneously heal. You can spontaneously become, quote unquote, I like to call it extra human terrestrial. Go ahead, my brother. Go ahead.
Your fingertips are you remember E.T. when his finger lit up and he touched that boy? That's what your fingers do. You produce electromagnetic current out of your fingers at all times, right?
Yes.
I can show you something real easy. So you take your hands, your palms.
Yes.
Your palms have chakra points. You rub them in circles together. Let me see. If I have my stand, I'll show you. Hold on.
Okay.
Real quick. I'm going to show y'all a quick energy exercise that you can do at home. I got
my brother Voilame going in.
So this is something you can do super simply at the house. All right.
Man, you shining so bright. I got to put my shades back on. Your light is so bright, man. I gotta put my shades back on.
So I'll show you. So these are your palms, right? Right here, these are chakra points, right?
Correct.
So there's a breathing method called the 4x4. So you breathe in your nose, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out your mouth, 5, 6, 7, 8. So what you do is you put your hands in small circles and you start breathing. So you when you breathe in, you imagine the world's energy is coming in through your nose and going in your chest and making a circle in your chest where your solar is. So after you do this and you're breathing, you do this as many times as you need to. You focus on the sound of your hands making the sound, right? So you relax, breathe. You do this for 2 to 5 minutes or however long you need to. After you do this, you take your fingers and you put them together like this. What you'll do is you'll still breathe, but this time when you breathe in the energy, it goes down into your solar, it does the circle, and it comes out of your shoulder into your fingers right here. You should feel your hands either cool or warm up or vibrate. You might feel vibration in your body. This is how you feel your own internal energy. This is a simple esoteric comedic teaching they used to teach us back in the day in order to just feel light energy. So if you do this in the earth, it'll amplify this energy. So if you do it barefoot, excuse me, if you do it barefoot, it'll increase even further. Now, I'm gonna show you how to store energy real quick. So sometimes we have a lot of extra energy, and we're like, "What do we do with this? What do we do with this?" Your head is the energy core, your solar, and your stomach. So what you do is you take your thumb. So this, let's say this is my thumb. You take it in the middle of your chakra point. You set it right here.
Mm,
You cover your hand
mhm,
and you put your hand over it like
mm,
this. So what it does is you leave your fingers right here, right? These are energy. This is your energy system. So when
mm,
you put your finger close, you put it under your stomach, 3 to 4 fingers below your navel. That's
mm,
where your actual energy core is. So when you're setting this, so let's say you just did this exercise and you're feeling that extra energy, right? You can use that on your fingertips to work on your chakra points. So you can, let's say, tap right here and use your fingertip points to clear static electricity. You can do it on your crown, you can do it on your throat, and all the way down to all your other chakras. If you do it in that order, it helps to clear that stagnancy in cells because it's a vibrational technique.
mm,
But when you store in your energy, when you put your energy below your navel, you're storing that leftover energy in the core. So a lot of that static electricity will come down there too because you're visualizing your energy going down into your core, and imagine your core as your universe.
mm.
So if your core is your universe, that means you have infinite space inside of it. So your infinite energy core is where you can store all that excess energy. It's a really simple. It looks silly to some people, but it's a really effective way to learn your own energy and learn how to breathe properly. Because when you put your fingertips together and you breathe like you learn how to control your oxygen. Spirituality in Latin means lespide.
Mm.
Lespide means the art of breathing or breathing to breathe. So once you learn how to control your oxygen, you learn how to control your electrical current. That's what telekinesis is. You pull piezoelectricity from your third eye into your energy meridian system and you pull it out of your hand and you externalize your internal energy to manipulate atoms of objects. So let's say there was a stick in front of me. It's not that I'm using telekinesis to move it, I'm controlling the energy from my cells
Mm.
to manipulate the cellular energy of whatever object it is. Because since everything is made out of energy, you're manipulating energy from your internal externally. Telekinesis is 7 to 8 hertz.
Mm.
Levitation is 20 hertz.
Mm.
As we get more frequency on this planet, we'll be able to start levitating soon.
Mm.
That's what that is. Levitation is controlling the energy field around you to become less dense than the heavy density that's placed upon our bodies.
My
That,
brother, you go
yeah, that's
ahead.
that. No, that's why it's so important to. That's why electricity and electromagneticity is so important. This is. You remember Vision from Marvel where he had that
Mhm.
crystal? We have that right here. That's us right here.
Yes.
Piezoelectricity in our energy system. Once you learn your oxygen flow, you learn your electrical current circuit.
Oh, this is real, my brother. And then jumping in real quick, when you create that pressure on that crystal, and there's a charge release, that stimulates, connects, opens, and re-alters whatever concentrated space is in. Let alone if you can hold the charge strong enough. And this is where I like to say the magnetic element of that charge comes in, because you gotta hold it to release it, to bring it back, to recycle it.
Hmm.
Based on, like you said, if you're trying to point it at something, in my opinion, you have that, as Western science may call it, subatomic light. let's just say spiritual light within that frequency and vibration you on, you shooting that out through your hands. And you're able to, let's just say, based on your level of one's level of consciousness and evolution, you can either just push through it, you can grab it, you can bring it back to you, you can throw it. And I'm realizing that what you're saying is very key, because there's so many situations we get in where your emotions get to going. And I mean the thoughts with a whole bunch of emotions and feelings and sensations. And I'm learning more and more of that when you can stay neutral, or your level of neutrality and balance in these situations, you can draw in, or as I'm learning, you could be more instantaneous with ESP or intuition to know how to act, not to react, what to do, not to do, all that together and some, and how to move forward. And what I'm learning is it becomes like seconds, like milliseconds. You become faster and quicker without even thinking. And what I'm recognizing is that you can get to that point, just like they showed in the first Matrix movie, and even in the other offshoots, the other variations, you can get to a point to where you don't even have to move anymore. You just stop that part of space-time or time and space, and now it bends fully to your will and your action and your thought and your perception or your feeling. And there was something they showed a moment of that too in the movie Lucy. I know you saw Lucy.
Yes.
Man.
A perfect example of us.
Come on now. And did you see, this synthetic drug, right? Look at the color of it. It's like a indigo violet, right? And I'm like, look at this. You got this whole crown and you got the whole first eye and copper connection. You got the connection with the throat in there because you got the blue. But what I'm recognizing too is that, like you mentioned earlier, when certain crystals and gemstones are exposed to other elements or elemental frequencies and vibrations, there's variations or traces of other energies, or like they got the banded agate. You get this spectrum of energy and color in this particular stone called an agate. It's a banded agate. I've even seen, like you say, you got certain quartz crystals, and I have some as well as even some agates, where going back to the quartz, I can see captured light frequency, or captured light, the light wave, or the captured photon packet. I can see that in the crystal. You got like rutilated quartz, you got cloudy quartz, you got clear quartz, you got snowy quartz, I believe, you got rainbow quartz, you got all these variations of quartz. And I'm realizing every stone ultimately goes back to the core of its original stone that it evolved from. So ultimately, even the clear quartz will take you back into the lava. It'll take you back into what's another name for obsidian? It'll take you back into that. And I'm recognizing that it's deep in what you're saying, and it gets deeper when you can not only articulate it, but when you see the internal biological changes you have with stones and crystals and energy and breath and movement. I mean, you're activating what we call ESP, or that junk, quote unquote, that hidden DNA on another level. And that moves you into, like you say, becoming supernatural, or becoming your own, melanated Marvel hero. And that takes us into another level of the change on Gaia or Mother Earth, because ultimately it's time for the superheroes, or the real superheroes, to awaken. And the shift has to happen, and everyone's playing a role, whether they recognize it or not. And I'm seeing that more and more, because there's so many people, quote unquote, shedding or leaving their physical and third dimension, only to be recycled and back again as a newborn, or I should say a newborn or an infant. And whatever it is you agreed to do, you didn't do. If you didn't graduate or you didn't bring enough magnetic electric or electric magnetic energy in your evolutionary spiritual change of consciousness, well, you got to come back to this dimension. Now, maybe I've learned there's always exceptions to the rule based on past life, the accumulation of what you've done, didn't do. And then there's also this reference, I forgot where I got it from, where it talks about how we may have forgotten, quote unquote, the magic, but the magic has never forgotten you. So based on who you were in past lives, and were you a high priest or high priestess, or were you part of the priesthood or the priestesshood? Were you a medicine woman, a medicine man? Were you, a quote unquote, commonly referenced a pharaoh? Whatever it may have been, whatever roles you play in ancient society, were you the engineer? Were you a doctor? Were you just a commoner? Whatever your experiences were, all that accumulation of energy, as I come to understand, that consciousness, which is what we define to be frozen or inactive or atrophied within its physicality, is implanted directly in the cell, but it takes the right chemical conversion with the magnetic electric magnetism to help awaken and take what is a gas or a liquid and bring it into a solid. Giving my layman's quick hurry up breakdown from what I can recover off the dome. And in saying this is where the chakras and respecting of spiritual systems come in so key, because regenerating your organs and your limbs and your sight and your vision and your youthfulness is part of, I look at that as markers or references to where you are, and I'm recognizing that the more I put my intention on, activating, whether it's blue, black, purple, whether it's lime, green, yellow, orange, whatever part of consciousness that particular part of melanin carries, because I'm recognizing too that I like to say certain or various. I don't like saying different as much. I like saying the variation of melanin in all of its displays, or all of its displays of itself upon itself, has specific frequencies and vibrations within that conscious being that is displaying a orange or a blue or a dominating green color. Whether you got bands or stripes on you, whether you have 3 eyes, 2 eyes. I'm also learning, based on where the eyes are. If the eyes wrap around the head, or the eyes if there's eyes stacked upon the head. I'm learning more and more to be more creative with my words, but also make sure I check my intent behind, that looks funny looking, or that looks weird, because entities and beings can say that about you. There's a consciousness you can be blocking by still having issue with something pale yellow or white. So I've had to learn and I'm still evolving and awakening with challenging that, because I'm recognizing that there's many, if we got spectrums of beings down here, and there's variations of things dark in the ocean that may that's translucent or see-through, or looks pale, and it's producing light, and it's producing more colors than I can see. I can't literally make myself blink right now. Not in the current state I'm in, but if I can see this deep ocean fish and it's bioluminescent, and everybody sees it's producing yellow, green, purple, and we haven't seen actual humans do that. Now we do see brothers who are blue, black, purple. I've seen it. They have the spectrum of the wavelength of light captured in their melanin. I've seen what looks to be a spiral moving very quick within the color that they're displaying in their melanin. And some of our brothers in ancient Africa, and maybe some other hidden parts of the world, or even hidden continents or hidden aspects of other space worlds or inner worlds or other dimensional realms, because I realize this thing is like I've never seen. And I've learned to challenge myself, and every time I think I've got it sort of crystallized in its magnetic or electric frequency, to keep some room open, or always stay open to adding more light, more energy in what I perceive to be what I will take as a momentary time and space of truth as I see it, based on how my consciousness has to relate. but I'm recognizing that it's deeper than I can ever imagine within a certain state of third dimensional awareness until I fully unlock the second strand, or however how far it's meant for me to go within this realm to the next. And it's saying that to you, it's deep based on how deep you want to know and become it and activate it. Because again, there is a responsibility, and it is an alteration and a change. It's a transformation.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to transduce these powers, I mean, like you stated about the palm chakra, those, they call it the minor or the major chakras in the palms of the hands and in the, I think close to around the heel of the foot.
Mm-hmm.
It's deep, but let alone the chakras above the head, the earth chakras. It depends on what translation and, what text and what book and what reference. But energy and the structure and the organization is always present. And we have to earn our keep if we're going to be humble and honest with being responsible, because we see what happened with the irresponsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm seeing that, this historical thing is deep because we played a role in this fall. Our ancient ancestors played a role. As great and mighty as they were, they played a major role in the fall, whether people sold each other out, they warred with each other, whether they used technology on each other, whether, I know Billy Carson goes in on, he talks about the ancient glass underneath the sand, around whether it's Libya or other deserts over there around, Africa or the Middle East. How you got, you got meteorite glass. Some call it meteorite glass from the impact of ancient meteorites, like they say with King Tut and that particular dagger. But then he talks about that there was ancient wars and technology used that zapped the sand because of the heat and the force became crystalline, and it like you say, it grew.
Mm-hmm.
All that energy and pressure made it grow from a grain of salt to what we call a crystalline piece of glass, or even what looks to be an actual stone or crystal type of glass.
Mm-hmm.
And so in saying that, my brother, go ahead and jump back in. We're approaching an hour and 51 mark. I see it's 5:03 Eastern time, my time. I know we got you here for just a couple more minutes. Anything you want to say in closing and respecting your time and your other commitments? I appreciate you letting me, definitely sharing the platform and allowing me to recharge and wake up and regenerate. It's been a while for me, publicly, but anything you want to say, my brother, you want to add on?
One thing I always tell people is that remember, everything is inside of you. Everything outside of you is external representations of your internals. Tarot cards, dowsing rods, and all of that is energy sequences and manifestation of energy that comes from inside of you. When you're looking for external, look internal. That's the first key. Number two, everything is electricity. Increase your electrical circuitry inside of you. Solve your generational problems. Solve repeated behaviors. Increase the love for yourself. This releases and discharges static electricity. And one of the last things I recommend too is breathe. Breathing is such an important aspect to our lives. Control your oxygen, control your electricity. You can do way more when you know how to breathe and keep yourself in a natural state to help you prevent dis-ease.
My brother, I definitely appreciate it. And I know there's so much more in future shows in time and space we can share and break down and then hover in certain areas. But as you see, I love it to be organic, let it flow. And like you say, everybody gets a piece. Everyone's going to filter what they need and where they are and where they're at. Because like I say, I'm definitely expanding and evolving. And it's so much, and I realize sometimes we're just meant to have certain pit stops along the way. Because some things, some people can go way deep into the last 500 years. I mean, tell you every war, Civil War, Revolutionary War, whatever it may be, every player, every general, every president, and that plays his role. And then there's other times where it's just a pit stop, and it's like, no, there's more for you there. You can reference that. We'll come back to it, but I need you to focus here. And that's where I've had to always stay open and closing to not being so locked in when it comes to certain perceptions or certain subjects, I have to stay open and fluid.
Mm-hmm.
Stay cosmic, stay like that cosmic light gas, that dark frequency of light and gas. Because think about it, it's always moving through. And it's only until it meets some equal or opposite force that it now starts to densify or liquefy or starts to build upon itself. But it's going to do what it has to do based on its mission and purpose. So, with all that said, my brother, I look forward to seeing you again. Definitely having a universal conversation with you. I am your brother Surrealism, a prism of realism. And this is
Voilame.
We Are Out. See you next time. See you next place. In la cash, I can. Who knob cool.